Lorer, and this is Lit Happens, your celebration of the literary arts here in Saskatchewan. Today I'm very pleased to welcome Alice Kuipers. Now, Alice is a best-selling author of young adult novels and children's books. She's a fantastic workshop teacher, and she even teaches online. Alice, welcome to Lit Happens.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I'm very pleased to be talking about your new book today, Me and Me. So can you tell me let's just start a little bit about your writing journey. Just tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. This is my 5th young adult novel that's been published with HarperCollins. I wrote maybe 6 or 7 books before I even became published as an author. I've published 2 picture books and I have a chapter book series upcoming. So the first book comes out next spring. And this book, Me and Me, the ideas for it began probably 20 years ago when I was starting to write myself. I wanted to write the story of a young woman whose life split into 2. But at the time as a writer, I perhaps wasn't brave enough to invent a character. So the character was a lot like me and the choices were a lot like my choices, which rapidly ran out of steam as a novel. And then I worked on the other 4 books that have come out and thought about storytelling and tried to learn as much as I could about writing. And one day, sitting in my mind, this girl looked up at me and it was clear that she was going to be the one that this story had to be about. This girl just didn't know how to make a choice in her life. She couldn't. And because of that, she became paralyzed and stuck in 2 worlds. So it's rooted in realism. But like the book before, The Death of Us, it has this element of the magical, of the impossible, yet it feels so close, so possible that there's another life that we could be living. So Lark has to explore what those choices could be.
Now, would you like to read us just a tiny bit?
I'll read the bit where she's faced with the choice. Me and Me. Faltering and goofing off, suddenly we're giggling as he tugs off his jeans and I tug off mine, tricky in a canoe. We're stripped down to our underwear. The sun is amazing warm against my skin. He steps closer along the canoe, causing it to wobble again. I bet he's going to come up to me and kiss me. Instead, he turns to the water. Come on! A shout stops us. Help! Oh my God, someone help me! It's Suzanne. I thought we were far from everyone, but I catch a glimpse of her flailing in the water just through the reeds. And a red life jacket. Annabelle. She's floating face down on the other side of the canoe from Suzanne. Alec and I glance at each other. He dives and I jump. The water is as cold as death. I lift my face to orient myself, pushing hair out of my eyes. And then, focused, I knife through the water. Now Annabelle is about 10 metres away from me. Suzanne still flounders in the reeds. Help her! Just then, Alec cries out. I glance back. He's about 10 metres behind me, blood pouring from his temple. His eyes are glassy. I bang my eye. He's sinking. Alec! I can't get to her! Suzanne fights the reeds that have entangled her. I turn back. I'm halfway between Annabelle and Alec. I have to save them. Alec is going under. Annabelle is face down. I can't breathe. Pain radiates through my chest. I tread water, frantically looking one way and then the other. I do not know who to choose. Lark screams. Suzanne screams, Lark, do something! But I can't.
Whoa. Now everyone's going to want to run out and find out what happened. And I'm glad there's an element of the mystical involved, because what a tough decision to have to face.
Yeah, and I think what interests me about writing for young adults is that those are the times in our lives, I think, the choices that we make, the things that we do, really make us the adults that we become. And because of the choices that Lark can't make, she kind of stalls. She can't turn into the adult she needs to be. And it's really interesting exploring the possibilities, because it made me think about the choice that I made in my life and who I could have been and who I am, and whether that's a mutable thing or whether that's fixed. It's really interesting to think about, particularly when talking about teenagers. It's just such a fun yet challenging age to be.
And you've made some really interesting choices. You're one of the people that in this community that other writers think of as one of the hardest working writers, because you have young children and you write a lot. And I think that even making those choices, those come through in the storylines. Somebody always makes a tough choice in your books, or and sometimes it's not even up to them, the choices that are made for them. But you're an example for us as writers. So just tell us a little bit. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I have 4 children. The oldest is 7, so it's a little bit bonkers at our house. And last night, like, I've been up all night. One of them was puking all night, so I'm feeling a little bit needing caffeine this morning. But for me, writing roots me and makes me calmer. I used to be a very anxious person. I had panic disorder for years and years, from the age of 16 to about 25. And for me, being creative, making something out of nothing, wasn't a frivolous thing. It was a thing that rooted and secured my life so I could do all the other stuff. So although it can be challenging to juggle children and work and teaching, I actually really try to honour the fact that writing isn't a side activity. And I think that's important for anyone who has a creative side to themselves, which I think is pretty much anyone. It could be that you're into video game coding or gardening or cooking. But if you go for a period of time and you don't fulfill that side of yourself, I think it can be immensely frustrating and start to impact everything else. I don't think our creative human self is a silly side thing. I think it's our essential thing. And I actually think that making time for that is crucial. So I do a lot of stuff online because actually I want people to be able to fit it into their lives. It suits my life, the online teaching. There's videos and workshops and things people can download all for free on the website. But actually the design of it is so that if somebody's busy and their writing window is 6 o'clock in the morning and they want some guidance, they can do that at 6 o'clock in the morning. And I can also make those workshops at 6 o'clock in the morning if that's the only time in the day to do it.
Now, one of the things that I heard you say recently was that you don't journal and you don't like to write experiences. You like to make things up, and I think that that's a lovely way to look at your fiction writing, just as something that's that you're making things up and you're creating those worlds and creating a world that, like you say, can be quite real, but also has elements of another place.
I'm not sure what it is about writing fiction that fulfills me so utterly. I love to read too, and although I read a lot of non-fiction as well, I find that reading fiction just helps me understand the world that we live in better. It gives me tools to get the emotional truth of what's happening on this planet. Right now I'm reading a novel called The Possessions, and it's about women mainly who channel the spirits of those who have gone before, and they are paid to be the body whilst these spirits speak. And it's a lot there about that life inside you, that made-up life, those other lives, the other people that we are, the other people that we could have been, like in Me and Me, and what those stories mean to us. I think we're fueled by stories. I think we always have been. You know, sitting around the fire 2,000 years ago listening to the Iliad, which I just read, which is a great book. That fueling, that need for stories, that need for understanding, that speaks to me as a writer and as a reader, which is really where everything comes from for me as a writer, is the reading that I do.
Well, thank you so much, Alice. That's all the time we have for today.
Thank you for having me.
But I'm so grateful that you share stories with us, and so thank you for
me
that.
Me too, with you and your great storytelling. Yeah, thank you very much for having me this morning.
Thank you. I'm Danica Lorer, and this has been Lit Happens. You can find past episodes by going to Shaw TV Saskatoon on YouTube. You can reach me on Facebook or Twitter or by emailing danicalorer@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.